We're going to go ahead and call to order. Today is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. The time is about 3:47. I will now call the Policy Committee meeting to order. Ms. Kenny, is there a quorum present?
Yes.
All right. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion passes. All right. Our first piece is the review of policies, reminding that when we review a policy, we look at the entire policy. So we are looking at Policy 537. Is there a motion to approve sending Policy 537 to the school board to be rescinded? So this is a little bit of a different motion. So is there a motion to approve sending Policy 537 to the school board to be rescinded?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion. So I will speak on this one. So Policy 537 is not an MSBA policy. It is a policy that was created by Faribault Public Schools, I want to say probably about 8-ish years ago. The schools were struggling with a lot of issues around school expectations and behavior. And so this was drawn up. I don't believe it was ever really meant to be policy, because the vast majority of the pieces that are in here are, one, outdated, and two, should not be policy, but actually should be practice. And if you look at this and you go in, I want to say you get all the way into, and a lot of the pieces in here are already in other policies. But if you get into, starting on page 17, is where the actual handbook student expectation grids begin. These are not the grids that we continue to use today. These have not been updated. We now follow MSBA's student handbooks at our different levels. So having this as policy is problematic at best. Because it just doesn't work that way. Handbooks are meant to be procedural that follow policies, not to be policy themselves. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of sending Policy 537 to the school board to be rescinded signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. That was our only review of policies. We now get into the revision of policies. And is there a motion to approve sending Policy 418, drug-free workplace, drug-free school, to the school board? Thank you, Tara. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Wendy. Discussion for 418. I believe this one has come up a few different times already.
And they've added another piece, I think, regarding the Minnesota Patient Registry Program.
Yeah, so on page 418-3, they added a section D. It says, and I'll just read it for transparency purposes. It says, the school district may not refuse to enroll or otherwise penalize a patient or person enrolled in the Minnesota Patient Registry Program as a pupil solely based on the patient or person is enrolled in the registry program. unless failing to do so would violate federal law or regulations or cause the school to lose a monetary or license-related benefit under federal law or regulations. It says, note the 2024 Minnesota Legislature amended this law to add this protection. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of sending policy 418, drug-free and workplace and drug-free school to the school board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there a motion to approve sending policy 515, protection and privacy of pupil records, to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Discussion. I want to feel like this one has also come before us.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
There's only one change, right?
Is the only change on page 2?
Yep.
Yes.
It's nice having those red lines so that you can,
Is it on page 2? Oh, yeah. They took off address. I think that's a good idea.
okay, so I'm just skimming through it to make sure that is the only change, or revision, I guess I should say. Goodness. Yes, I've made it to page 37. Okay, so yes, so I just wanted to make sure this is the only change. So this was, I met with our attorneys, I want to say about a month ago. And one of the pieces that they wanted to make sure, they actually said that there's a discrepancy between MSBA's policy and what state statute says. So they have directed schools that have reached out to them to strike out address, telephone listing, and also strike out, it also includes the name, address, and telephone number of the student's parents from this policy. All right. And then they had added in parents' electronic email address so that it was distinguished between parents and students. Discussion?
I think that's a good idea.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of sending policy 515, protection and privacy of pupil records, to the school board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Is there a motion to approve sending policy 519, interviews of students by outside agencies, to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Wendy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tara. Discussion. Looking at this, the revision starts at the bottom of the first page. It says, when it is possible and the report alleges substantial child endangerment or sexual abuse, and it goes on to say, interview may take place outside the presence of the alleged offender and may take place prior to any interviews of the alleged offender. And it says this change is found in Minnesota statute section 260E.22. So it sounds like they're just kind of cleaning up some of the language to make sure it follows the statute. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Making good time here, people. All those in favor, is there a motion to approve sending policy 522, Title IX, Sex Non-Discrimination Policy, Grievance Procedure and Process, to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Nick. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Discussion. I'm going to look here to see what the revision is. I feel like this one has also come before us here just recently. It actually appears that the only change is on page 18,
The date.
and it is
Got
just
the date.
a date change.
We're reverting back.
Oh, because we're reverting that, I'm
to the
sorry,
old one.
yes,
So there's a sheet in there.
We're reverting
yes.
back
That summarizes.
to Title IX.
So we are reverting back to the 2020 Title IX policies versus the 2024 Title IX policies. Okay? So this would have been a policy that was on the books with us in the past. All right. Federal policy. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right. I'm looking here. This just goes with that, is that correct? This is just the information sheet for that? Got it. All right. All right, is there a motion to approve sending policy 614, student district testing plan and procedure, to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. Discussion. I'm looking to see what the
I
revision
think it's at
is.
the end,
Last page.
16.
Page 16?
Yeah.
So the only change that is on here is the removal of section 6, taking away the retaliation prohibited.
Why did they do that?
Let me see here real quick.
Because I think it should be put in there. That's my only problem today.
Standards.
The 2024 Minnesota legislature
Yeah,
enacted
and so why are we
provision.
taking it out?
It
I think
says,
it's a good thing.
it says this protection is not part of the testing procedure itself.
So there's a retaliation prohibited provision.
Somewhere else?
Well,
And-
isn't that part of whistleblowing protection? So you
Yeah.
can be retaliated if you are.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it should stay in there then, right? But, because in 2024, the Minnesota legislature enacted this provision. Well, why are we taking it out then? I think it should stay in there. That's my opinion. Just for like a whistleblower protection. Not that,
Or is it
it will
covered?
happen in our district, but I think just in general, it's a good thing to have.
Is it
It is covered, it says that it's covered under section 181.932.
But, yeah, but is it?
So it does say here,
statute?
the notes that we have.
Yeah.
The notes that we have from, I'm just looking through here, the notes that we have from MSBA says substantive change, school boards may exercise their discretion in determining whether to take the recommended action. So, because the word may is used, we do not have to. So,
So we do not have to put this in, but we could. That's what you're saying.
we do not have to take this out,
It currently is.
but we could.
So
I don't think we should take it. out.
MSBA is saying
I don't
remove
wanna
it,
take it out.
but they're
Well, that's my
saying
stand,
that we
for
may.
obvious reasons.
Minnesota State Statute 181.932, an employer shall not discharge, discipline, penalize, interfere with, threaten, restrain, coerce, or otherwise retaliate or discriminate against an employee or the employee's compensation, terms, conditions, location, privileges of employment because, and then there's 10 different things.
So it currently is in. And if it were to come out, would we then reference the Minnesota statute that protects the employee?
So the statute that Ms. Steves just read seems to be more vague in nature, where this statement seems to be more specific towards technical interruptions with administering assessments. So it just, I think it gets a little bit more specific about that. I believe it does still fall under that same piece. So
It's more specific about protecting the employee.
it's more specific about
I do like that.
protecting the employee, yes. So I will say, I am comfortable leaving it in and not taking it out. But, I mean, does anybody have any objection to that?
So I just, as a former district assessment coordinator in another district, I'm reading this and I'm just thinking there's a lot of procedural things when it comes to disruptions or technical interruptions. That's the DAC's responsibility. So I guess I'm not we always tell staff, like as a building principal now too, I always tell staff if any of these things were to happen, let me know and I will work with our district assessment coordinator to make sure these things are reported. So to me, I'm fine leaving it in there. I just don't see the necessity of it because this is a part of a DAC's role in the district anyway, and a building administrator's role if you have testing in your building. But I can go, I'm fine with it in there. I just don't see it being necessary.
Okay.
But
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All right, so understand that an aye vote, a yes vote means remove it. A no vote means keep it in. All right, I just want to make sure we understand that. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
No.
Say nay. Nay.
nay.
Okay. All right, so we will not recommend to the school board. This will go to the school board, but the recommendation from this committee is that they will leave that in there. They will not remove it.
Correct.
Okay? All right. Ms. Kenny, you got that? Board members, because you'll need to report on that.
I won't be here, so.
Okay. All right. Good news is we got 35 minutes to go through this last policy.
And we're going to need every minute.
Is there a motion to approve sending policy 721, uniform grant guidance policy regarding federal revenue sources to the school board?
So moved.
Thank you, Tara. Is there a second?
Second.
Or I'll give that one to Wendy. Discussion.
I think they added the veterans, right? Yeah, on page 5. I think that's a good move. Anything we can do for our veterans, I guess. I think there was something else too, though.
Cybersecurity is on
Yeah.
page 8.
Right.
So it says, just in transparency, they added section C, which is cybersecurity is the title. It says the school district must take reasonable cybersecurity and other measures to safeguard, 1, personally identifiable information, 2, information that the federal agency or pass-through entity designates as sensitive, excuse me, and 3, other information that the school district considers sensitive and is consistent with applicable federal, state, local, and tribal laws regarding privacy and responsibility over confidentiality. And there's some statutes there.
I think they added a word on the bottom of 9.
They added, yes.
Well, they said should align and took out be in compliance.
Yeah, they removed be in compliance and changed it with a line. Then on page 10, it says the school district must comply with, they added the United States Constitution. Few grammatical things that don't change any of the
Isn't there-
meanings.
Dollar amount clarification.
Yeah, 10,000.
That was up on page 2 or 3, I believe.
Wasn't there something about Minnesota? Yes,
3,
on
page
page
3.
3. Federal government's increase to the dollar cap for small purchases. Minnesota law limits cap to 175.
So yeah, so we need to move it to 175 instead of 250,000. Okay. On page 15, they added mandatory disclosures. Says the school district must promptly disclose whenever in connection with the federal award, including any activities or subawards thereunder, it has credible evidence of the commission of a violation of federal criminal law involving fraud, conflict of interest, bribery, or gratuity violations found in 18 U.S. States Code, or a violation of the Civil False Claims Act, 31 U.S. States Code. And then there's more that it goes on to say.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Most of the grants I've applied for in my professional life have these disclosures. When you acknowledge
Mhm.
and apply, you sign. Is this just extra?
I think this is to cover in case there's a grant that does not have that. It is covered under this.
Okay.
Is my understanding. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. At this time, we have no new policies. Our next meeting is March 4th, 2025 at 3:45 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Of course.
Of course, Wendy seconds that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.